Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. I am going to do a monthly reading wrap up of the month of January. I read a total of 11 books and I DNF'd one book. So I'm going to talk about them here and I'm going to read them with a yes, no, or maybe, but I may go off on a little bit of a tangent because I'm a yapper. So stick around, grab your coffee, and hang out with me. Alright, so I grabbed my iced coffee. The first book that I read this month was Amid Clouds and Bones. I didn't end up loving this book. I ended up giving it a 3 stars. I am a really big fan of romantasy, but I feel like it's getting played out. Like a lot of the authors are doing the same story, just with different character names, and I'm getting bored. Like I was expecting so much more from this book, kind of just like Quicksilver. Like Quicksilver wasn't for me either, and I'm just wanting more. Like I feel like Sarah J Maas kind of ruined this for me, and her stories, I just feel like I compare all of her books to all of these new romantasies. So I don't know, this one was a maybe for me. For you it could be, you know, an amazing read, but it just wasn't for me. The next book that I reread this month was Fourth Wing in anticipation for Onyx Storm. I absolutely loved this book. I originally read this book when it first came out and I missed them so much. Like I forgot how much I loved the original story of Violet and how she met Xaden and their little enemies to lovers, the tension, the banter, the spice. I just missed them so freaking much. I of course loved everything about this reread. I gave it a 5 stars. You know, it's just perfection. I love this series. The next book that I read was Under Lock and Key. I don't know where the physical copy is. I own it. I bought it specifically for this buddy read that I did with my girl Amanda, but I don't know where it went. I'm in the process of moving and I think it got packed up in a box somewhere. But this one was an adventure. This was a ride. I listened to the audiobook at the same time as reading it, and the Scottish accents in it were perfection, but it was weird. The fact that he turned into a Loch Ness monster and some of the spicy scenes were just interesting, but it was a cute story. I got a little mad at the ending. I feel like the ending could be a little bit better, but it was a cute fun read for what it was. And then the next book that I read, it was called Not in My Book. I read it as an audiobook and I absolutely loved this book. It was so cute. Same thing, the ending was a little annoying, but I loved this book so much. I think that the reveal at the end shouldn't have gone down the way that it did, but I really enjoyed the banter in this book. It was such a fun read. I just love contemporary romance. It's like one of my favorites, and it was just so cute. I'm obsessed with this one. I gave that one a 4 stars and I definitely recommend that one. And then the next book that I read was called A Very Irish Christmas. I read this as an audiobook as well, and I am moving to Ireland, so I loved all the references and stuff like that, but I just didn't love this book. I got super bored reading it, and I was honestly done like reading it at about 60% mark. I don't know, I just lost interest. I think it also could have been the fact that Onyx Storm was coming out this month, so I was just so excited for that nothing else was hitting this month for me. The next book that I read, it was on my Kindle. It was called Lessons in Corruptions. I read this as a buddy read with my friend Brie, and I hated it. I gave this a 1 star. I would not recommend this book. I got a major ick. It is a teacher slash student relationship. She's 26, he is 18, and the dad was 34. Like, she could have just gotten with the dad. He was so much hotter, so much, like, oh god, what was she thinking? The whole time I just got major ick. If he was in college and like she was like freshly teaching, like I feel like that would be different, but I hated this book. My Goodreads review on it was so freaking funny, and I'll put it right here. I hated this book. I am going to continue this series because Brie is really interested in this series, and I heard that it gets better, so I am crossing my fingers that it gets better because this was not it. The next book that I read was Five Broken Blades. I read this with Eliza. I gave this one a 3 stars. I would say maybe for most. It just wasn't for me. I think the problem was is I read this at the same time as Iron Flame, and I think that the world of Fourth Wing just took over and I just lost interest in this. I listened to it as an audiobook, and there were so many different point of views that I got so lost. I wanted it to be so much better, and I feel like it could have been if I read along at the same time, but it is gorgeous. Like, I'm obsessed with the edition, but I cannot get into it. So that one is a maybe. It could be for you, just not for me. The next book that I reread this month was Iron Flame. I absolutely adored this book the second time around. I haven't read it since it came out, and the first time that I read it, I think I was just overwhelmed with all of the information, and it was a chunker. It's a big book, but the second time around was so much more fun. I don't know, I just missed everyone in the series. Like, it was so fun. I ended up finishing it at like 1 a.m. the day before Onyx Storm came out, so like I had to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the Onyx Storm release and go pick up my copy, and it was just so fun. Like, I loved getting back into this world, and I'm so glad that I did the reread before Onyx Storm came out, because I feel like everyone that didn't do the reread, they got super lost throughout Onyx Storm, and I loved every single thing about this book again. I gotta have a little coffee break. The next book that I read was Dating and Dragons. I ended up DNFing this book. Like I said, I think that Onyx Storm just took over this month, and I just could not get into anything else. I loved the first book. It was super duper cute, but this one, I don't know why, I just was getting so bored, and I made a promise to myself this year that I wouldn't force myself to read books and like hate read them this year. If I don't like a book, put it down and read something else, because there's so many other books out there you could be reading. So I ended up DNFing it. I had the opportunity to receive it as an ARC, but I just could not get into it, so that one was a no for me, but I could always pick it up later. Like I said, I really liked the first one, but maybe it was just not the right time to read this one. And the next book that I read was All Roads Lead to Rome. This one was a audiobook, and it was cute little fun summer read. I loved this book. It was adorable. I ended up giving it a 3 stars. It was cute. I would say if you're looking for a fun, fluffy romance, this one would be one that I would recommend. I really enjoyed this one. The next book that I read was called Make Me. This one was a dark romance and an audio that I listened to. I really enjoyed the duet narration. It was really enjoyable at first. I really liked this book until it hit about the 60% mark, and I just lost interest. The male main character just started getting on my nerves, and the things that he was just saying, he lost me. I ended up giving it a 2 stars, so I didn't love this one. I probably won't pick up the rest of the series, even though I had an interest in one of the other like brothers, and I think one of the next books are about him, but I don't know if I'll pick up the rest of this series. Alright, and the moment everyone's been waiting for, Onyx Storm. I absolutely loved this book. I took my time reading it. It took me the full 2 weeks just because I really wanted to process everything. I wanted to take my time. I avoided TikTok as much as I could for spoilers. I didn't get anything spoiled for me, thankfully. I loved this book. I am freaking out at the end. I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but my god, I love Xaden and Violet so much. I could go on forever about my love for them. I did not think that I could love Xaden more, but then I read this book, and this man, he blew it out of the water. I love this man so freaking much. Rebecca, I need the next book. 2027 is really far. Please don't make that to be true, because I need the next book. I miss them so much already. I just finished this book last night, and I already need a reread. Like, I put off the last 100 pages because I didn't want it to end. I loved it. I sobbed reading it. I freaked out. I was screaming. I was giggling. I was laughing. And this is exactly what I needed to end my month, because all the rest of the books that I read were just not hitting the spot. And this, I just knew would. So that was my reading wrap up of the month of January. Like I said, I read 11 books and 1 DNF. How many books did you guys read? I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, besties.